Hi, welcome. I'm Julianne. I am going to show you how to paint your moon magnets and ornaments. This first step is painting what will be the moon color. So it'll be very light. We'll just put a really light coating of paint on it, and then we will layer to get the darker colors later. So first of all, just take a brush and get both sides of the paper wet. The paper is the same on both sides. It doesn't matter which side you paint on. So make sure it's nice and wet, and then take your brush and dip it into the colors. You can use all the colors or just a couple, whatever it is you want, and just kind of tap the brush so that it splatters a little bit onto your paper. Rinse it off. Do another color. A little bit of blue. Go ahead and use all the colors, and then just let that dry, and we'll come back and do the next step. Okay, the next step after the first layer is dry is to do the moons, where you're going to cover up the area on the paper that is going to be the moon with gloss medium. That should be in your kit, and let that dry, and then wherever you put the gloss, when you paint over the next layer, it will resist the paint, and so you will have the shape of what you did with the gloss medium. So I've got 3 here, so I can show you the 3 different phases. I will start out with doing the crescent moon, the really small moon. So first you're going to just take a pencil and lightly draw the outline of where you want your moon to go. And so to get the right shape, what I do is just take another circle and put it over up until the edge. You get the size that you want, and then just lightly mark it with a pencil. A little darker than that. You don't want it too dark because it might show. Okay, you can see there, it's slightly marked. And then for the half moon, you can go a little bigger, like half size, and then maybe not go all the way to the edge of the circle, but more half. And then the when it's going to be a full moon, you just leave the way it is for now, and I will show you how to do that one. Okay, so take your gloss medium, and you're gonna just carefully get the gloss up into the tip so you don't have air bubbles. So it's just coming out of the tip. And take it and go right along the edge of the pencil mark. And then fill in the area from that line over to the edge. And just squeeze it and fill it all in with the medium. Doesn't have to be real thick. You can kind of move it around with the tip, and then move that to the edge and let it dry. For the half moon, you're going to do the same thing. Just kind of make a line down half where you want it, and then you can adjust it, kind of eyeball it, see where you want it, and then fill in the rest. For this bigger area, you can just put some medium in, and then you can use your brush to kind of spread it around. And do a nice even layer. Get all the way to the edge. And then let that dry. And now for your full moon, you're going to put gloss all over the whole thing, but in order to give it a little bit more texture, you can use the brush and do kind of light strokes, so it's not a complete covering. So you just have some areas that we'll put another layer of paint. Some paint will get in and some won't. So you can just squeeze some gloss into a few different places and then just take your brush and kind of dab it unevenly over the surface, and that'll dry. And then when you put a layer of paint, it'll give it a little bit of texture too. I don't know if you can really see what I did there, but all right. And let those dry. That'll take a little bit longer than the water took to dry. So depending on how dry your air is, it could take 15 minutes to half an hour. And then we will do the next layer. Welcome, we're back, and now it's time to paint the sky around our moon. So I've got my three, my full, my crescent, and my half. The gloss is all dry. So I'm going to start this time with the full moon. So I'm just going to get that wet, get the surface of this wet. And you also need your paint handy, and you need your little container of salt. Okay, so now I'm just gonna, for this one, actually we don't need the salt for the full moon. For this one, I think I'm just going to use some purple and some of the indigo. You can use any colors you want, obviously, but just kind of put some paint on there, swish it around, not too much because you mostly want it to be light like a full moon. Some indigo. And just put a layer on there and let it sit, and it'll start soaking into the texture that you made with your gloss and into some of the areas of the paper that don't have any gloss on it. And I will just leave that for a few minutes and come back to it later and maybe wipe some of the paint off if I feel like it, or see how it's looking. Okay, now on to the crescent moon. So this one, I don't know if you can see in the light, this has just got the gloss right on the edge. So we're going to be painting this whole inside section here. So take the paintbrush and get all of that area wet. And after this, we're going to put another layer of paint, probably indigo. So for this layer, I think again, I'm just going to use mostly the purple and the blue. So just kind of go around and dab it in a few places. Rinse your brush off between colors, just so you don't mix up the paints. And some more colors. Do a little bit of green in there. Now these are going to blend together. And then take just a little bit of salt and sprinkle a little bit on top. Now what the salt will do is it'll move the paint. So as the water dries, it'll create kind of a pattern, kind of a star-like pattern on there. And then we're just going to do the same thing with a half moon. Wet the part of the paper that's showing. And dab some paint. A little bit of green. And a few little sprinkles of salt. And once again, let it dry. And I'll show you my full moon right there. So what you can do is just take a paper towel if you want, and you can kind of dab at it. Let's see what I'm doing here. And just, that'll add a little bit more texture. Just pull off some of the paint that's sitting on top of the gloss. And if you feel like adding more paint, you can, or just leave it like that. And we'll put another layer of gloss at the end. All right, now again, once again, you need to let this dry, and we'll do the next layer. Okay, now the next step, now that the paint is dry on these, is to brush off the salt that's on there. And you can see how the salt created the pattern in the paint there. And on this one, brush off the salt as well. And then just add as much paint as you want to, darken the sky and make it the color you want. So you can just add a layer of the indigo if you want more purple, more blue. And then the color that you have underneath will come through. It'll just make it a little darker. And you can go right up to the edge of the moon. You can even go onto the moon a little bit if you want. And same with this one. And if you get any on your moon that you don't want, you can just use a paper towel and just wipe it off. As I said, it won't soak in. So you can kind of see and let those dry. And this is the full moon. That is dry. So once that paint dries, your next step would be taking some of the gloss and just squeezing it on there and using the brush and covering it with the gloss and letting it dry as a coating. And then after that's dry, just flip it over to the other side and put a layer of gloss there. Okay, so the last step after you've put gloss on the front and the back of your moons is to outline the edges with the gold paint pen. So you're going to take your pen, you're going to shake it up a bit, get the bowl in there rolling, get the paint mixed up. And then if it's the first time, you want to push on the tip a little bit to get the paint flowing. Test it out, make sure it's working, and then just outline the edge in gold. Just go all around the edges, and that's it. You put a magnet on the back and sign your name, and you're all set. Enjoy.